flag. That's a flag. Awesome drive, man. Awesome drive.
It's nice to close out a race like that. That was awesome.
This is the Team Blaney Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to 2023 season episode 40 of the Team Blaney Podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. As always, this podcast is brought to you by fans for fans. Steve and I have been following the drivers of the Blaney racing family for 2 decades, and Team Blaney itself launched on social media back in 2014. Each weekly episode of the podcast offers an in-depth analysis of Ryan Blaney's latest NASCAR Cup Series race, plus news, notes, and a lineup of special guests all throughout the year. This week, we break down the number 12 team's run in the Forever 400 presented by Mobil 1 at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Steve, welcome back to episode 40. Just a couple more of these to go. I barnstormed our way back. We barnstormed our way back from Homestead. We were able to take in the racing weekend. Got to see some exciting things. Got to see another great race at Homestead. Great weather, I will mention. Still a red flag. Still a red flag.
You did it, my man. You did it.
Once again, second red flag this year. That was not weather related. It was crash related though. So I think I can, that's not my fault when it's an actual accident. I forget what that last race we were at that had like a fluke red flag, but anywho, we have plenty more to talk about because man, this was one heck of a weekend for this number 12 team and definitely should have the whole fan base, the whole Blaney fan base excited for what's to come at Martinsville and then hopefully at the championship race at Phoenix.
The number 12 team has become the Jeffersons this week. Moving on up.
You're pumped up already. I can feel that energy. And I got to tell you, I need that. We talked about this before the episode when we thought we were about to record about them being DQ'd. And I was texting you and saying, I need your power of positivity. And I almost feel like I need that again this week. Things are so good that I'm trying to find ways, I think, to like look for the negative. And I need to stop doing that because I got to let things go. It's out of my control. It's out of the team's control as long as they execute. But I'm still going to need you. I'm pretty sure I still need you.
Here's a great statistic from last week. Last Sunday night after DQ to this Sunday night, 66 point swing.
Yeah.
Right?
Things were 56. Definitely much worse last Sunday night. You're right.
56 below the cut line, now 10 above.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And we talk about teams needing to peak at the right time and things kind of coming together for this team. You know, second year under crew chief Jonathan Hassler. They've pretty much had a steady pit crew all year long. There were some pit crew changes like halfway through the season last year. So it's like everything's finally starting to gel at the perfect time. They've got 2 wins on the year. And man, if they're going to do it, now's the time to do it. And Homestead, what'd you think of the racing there at Homestead? Now, I'll mention that we were there in person. We watched from pit road. So I didn't really get to see much of the track, the whole track. Now, I've seen several races there before, so I know how it is. But next-gen car racing at Homestead, all the lines, tires wearing out. What'd you think of the overall racing?
Yeah, it turned out pretty good. I mean, it's always great when we're watching Ryan up near the front. The racing's always good in those races, right? But truthfully, it was really, really interesting to see guys, 10, 15 laps into the run to go head up to the wall and then how they handled that. And the best part about the 12 car is they had the handling to come down off the wall to make passes, to get below somebody and within a lap or two make the move they need to make, get the momentum, get below somebody, hook the line down to 1 and 2, get past them down the backstretch. So yeah, it had all those elements, and then guys 30 laps into a run just wearing out. And truthfully, it's something we'll talk about later in this thing. If certain things don't happen the way they happened and we stay green in stage 3, I think we were going to see something really, really big, because it would have been just starting to gap everybody as it went on. And, like I said, we'll talk about that later because there was damage to the car and things that happened and, changed everything. But yet, when we talk about executing, this is what they had to do. They still had all those issues happen. They still had some things with restarts that didn't look right. And they couldn't get a good launch sometimes on these restarts, but yet he's still just ticking off laps and passing people, and another 10 laps to the race. Who knows? They were coming a little bit at the end there.
Absolutely. But like I said, Homestead, such an amazing track. I'm glad that it's one of the couple of tracks down here in Florida that we get to go to pretty regularly. Truck race was great. The Xfinity Series race, I feel like every year just puts on one of the best shows. I was a little sad it wasn't at night this time. We've seen several Xfinity races there at night that are pretty exciting, but there's plenty of action and drama on that one. But yeah, everybody was definitely there for this race, the second in the round of 8 in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and a very pivotal race for the 8 drivers remaining, including Ryan Blaney. And one thing we've been hoping for on a mile and a half recently is some speed out of the 12 car. They went to Las Vegas and they were able to show some speed, but not necessarily takeoff speed. But practice and qualifying went pretty well for them as far as, setting things up for this race.
Yeah, they they go Saturday morning there and morning. That was another thing. How early were you there Saturday morning?
Yeah, so I shared this message on a couple of the Team Blaney socials, but we again, we're in Florida, but we're not necessarily near. We're close to Daytona. We're not anywhere near Homestead, so we took off just before 3:00 in the morning and got our credentials and got onto pit road just as practice was starting, just after 9 a.m. So it was an extremely long day of racing between practice, qualifying, Truck Series race, Xfinity Series race, and then booking it back to the hotel to sleep before the Cup race on Sunday. But man, for motorsports fans, between that, the qualifying happening, and the Formula One race, it was a long day of action, and throwing some college football in there too. Man, I don't know. There's plenty of people that didn't get up off the couch all day long.
So they get Group A and 2 laps in there. They jump up to P3 behind the 23 and the 2. The 20 car was P4. The 19 car was P6. And the 17 was P7, and like I said, that's a 1 lap thing during the practice, early in the practice. But 10 minutes into the practice, Ryan's running the wall. And what's great about this session for him is there's no bringing it back in. So we've talked about like these practices before where they get out there and they'll run some laps, and then if he brings it in, they're making an adjustment. Well, they weren't worried about adjusting. They, were just out there running. 10 lap average there, at one point he was the first playoff guy in the 10 lap average early in that session, 15 lap average, the top one in Group A also. So Group B comes out there, the 45 runs the fastest lap there. The 5 is P4, the 24 is P7, the 17 is P16. And then I got the 22 here, P2, before he crashed. Really wanted to keep track of him a little bit because, the 2 was real good in Group A. And if the 22 was good Group B, we know that across the board, they've found something, as a team.
I will say, just worth mentioning, they talk about in this next gen era, how it's like a whole team effort to get a backup car ready to go. Cause they really only bring 1 or 2 of these things. Most of the time it's not wrapped. And, we're walking through the garage area after qualifying is over, and you see guys in Menards shirts, guys in Pennzoil shirts, guys in discount, tire shirts, guys in Motorcraft. Like, it's like the whole team comes together. And I can't remember if Ryan's had to go to a backup this year or not, but it's a whole team effort when somebody has a problem. So I appreciate what they were able to do, and especially the way they were able to rebound in the race after that.
Yeah, Group A was faster than Group B overall. 10 lap averages with them combined here was about 5th behind Larson. The 15 lap average, once again, he was up to 2nd behind Larson. So we get to Group A qualifying. Ryan goes out 17th out of 18. And he puts up 32.135, which is P5. And hangs on for dear life. But the guys, in that last couple guys that went were not knocking people off the board. The playoff guys, not great.
Every week I just want them to make that second round. And I'm like, if he starts 10th, that's fine. At least he made it. He made it to that next round to give it a shot to go for the pole, because, there's some definitely at least a little bit of speed there. And we didn't even know what the car was going to run like necessarily past 15 laps.
Yeah. The the Fast Five there were the 23, the 19, the 3, the 6, and the 12. Group B, the Fast Five were the 45, the 54, 24, the 5, and the 1. So we go for pole qualifying here. He goes out first because he was 5th overall in Group A and puts up a 32.594, which is a little bit slower than what he ran in the first round. 19 gets the pole. Ryan ends up 10th. The turnaround and so forth and the track maybe changed a little bit on them, but they didn't get any real gain. And, between 5th and 10th here's the funny thing is P5 was 32.510 and Ryan was 32.594. So 0.08 of a second between 5th and 10th. So the wind blows the right way coming down the back stretch or down the front stretch, and Ryan could have started 5th. So, it's not bad at all. It's in the top 10. And we know with the lap averages that we're going to be moving forward. So we get to race day pit stall 27, which is open in front of him and the 21 behind him. Stages of 80, 165, 267, 9 sets of tires, a fuel run of about 60 to 65 laps. And of course the 22 to the rear here. And early on here, lap 1, within a lap, he's up to 7th. The restart here was really, really good right off the bat, the start of the race. Lap 2 passes the 24 up to 6th, and the 23 has taken the lead at this point. Lap 3, passing the 3 car up to 5th. And then lap 9, the 24 races with him a little bit, and lap 10, the 5 actually gets in on it too. Once you get 2 guys trying to battle with you in your middle of 3 or your top of 3, it can get a little rough out there. So he's back to 7th here, and at lap 12, the 19 takes the lead off the 23. Lap 15 passes a 23. That 23 is faded from the front, pretty quickly, and Ryan's up to 6th. And at lap 20, he tells him the front is getting better. The 24 passes the 19 for the lead. So there's our comers and goers early on with what they had set up for the beginning of the race. Lap 25, Ryan saying the front end is struggling on the entry to 1. And lap 26, Ryan starts running the wall, both ends for a few laps here, and kind of like seeing, what kind of lap times they're getting up there. Lap 30, he's about a second back of the 45 car in front of him, so it's not bad. Lap 32, they're pitting. And like I said, TV's got this as a 9-4. That's a great part about running in the 5th or 6th position when they hit pit road here, that they give you that pit times. Everybody can look at it. 4 tires and fuel there. Lap 37, he should cycle back to 4th at this point, which is about 2 spots gain on a green flag cycle, which is pretty impressive. It might mean that somebody made a mistake or two, but your 9-4 really stood tall there. Lap 50 here, Josh tells them we're the fastest car for the last few laps, and they're on the top, both ends, ripping the fence. Faster than all 3 of the cars in front of them. Now, it kind of spread out. That's the only problem at this point with the green flag cycle. I mean, he was still about 2.28 back of the 24 car in 3rd. Lap 55, the 5 car took the lead here, and Ryan was catching the 24. He was actually 0.324 back of him. Lap 61, he does pass the 24, gets up to 3rd. And lap 64 here, the 48 is a lap down, getting in the way. Lap 77, the 47 spins out on the backstretch. This happens right at the end of the stage. So 5 wins the stage, and Ryan ends up P3. So right off the bat, boom, points. Some of the guys in the top, some of the playoff guys didn't get points, which is, something that happened at Vegas, where almost everybody was in the points both stages, made it very hard to separate yourself. Well, this time around, this weekend, this race, some guys do end up getting separated a little bit from the pack.
You see with this, first stage of this race, that blueprint that they need going forward in every stage in the finish next week. And assuming they get to the championship 4 in Phoenix, you have to unload with speed. You have to qualify in the top 10. You have to move up if you qualify in the back half of the top 10. You have to execute on those pit stops. I don't know how many green flag pit stops we'll have in Martinsville. We'll see. I mean, there hasn't been. I think there's been more there recently than there has been in the past because people aren't spinning out. But
the spring race had it once or twice because they talked about all the green flag passes that happened.
That's right. That's right.
When they all happened on pit road.
So this pit crew's gaining positions. They gain positions all day long on green flag cycles. So, I mean, that is a blueprint for what they need to do next week at Martinsville and what they need to do for the rest of this race. We're going to recap because qualifying up front, staying up front, getting those points are going to be absolutely crucial if they want to race for a championship.
Jonathan talks to Ryan here about seeing what the brakes can do to help, like working with the brake bias a little bit. They're pitting, of course, here, 4 tires here. This was a 10-9, and it was in third and out fifth. The 24 and the 19 were the two that beat him, but the 24 did a 9-3 stop. So, you got beat by just a really good stop to begin with. We'll start looking at choose cones here a little bit, and the 5 takes the top. Ryan takes the top, so he's 1 or 2 back of him starting this second stage. They restart lap 86. The 54 and the 45 gang up on Ryan on this restart, and the 5 is taking the lead. Ryan sorts out to about 7th. But lap 90, we pass the 1 up to 6th. Lap 91 passes the 54 up to 5th. Lap 95 passes the 19 up to 4th. At lap 110, the top 5 are all within a tenth of each other on lap times, so he is 0.505 back of the 24, which he's chasing. And Ryan asks if anyone is shifting against the wall. He wants to kind of know if there's something he can do different. Hassler tells him that the 24 and the 5 have not started shifting against the wall. And those are, probably the 2 best at that point. At lap 115, we're pitting here, and beat the 24 off pit road, with a 9-5 stop. And when it cycles around, should cycle to P3 here. At lap 125, we're passing cars that haven't pitted yet. And lap 127, the cycle does be complete. And up, like I said, up to third. The 5 is the leader. And Ryan is 0.572 back at the 6 car. So he's caught ground on this pit cycle to the second place car even. And Ryan says they're way too tight early on here in this run. Lap 134 passes the 6 car up to second. And at this point, 5.695 back of the 5. Okay. So you think, well, by the end of the stage, it shouldn't, But lap 142, he's 4.3 back. At lap 145, he's 3.527 back. At
Just I could hear that Jaws music, and we're watching this point from the pit box in pit road, and I'm watching the monitor, watching the times count down, and I'm like, he's gonna get to him right at the end here. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, lap 150, 2.8 back. At lap 155, 2.063. At lap 160, it's less than a second, 0.814 back at the 5. And at lap 162, he passes the 5, gets to first here, and then wins stage 2. And I don't have it in my notes here, but I know Larson got on the radio, and the 99 was a key to the end of the stage. The 99 caused a lot of trouble for the 5 car. And even Ryan had a little bit of trouble passing him. But by that point, the 99 was the lucky dog. And I think he was just trying to make sure he stayed the lucky dog. And
he is notorious for that. And which, I don't think it's a bad thing. For your team, you're trying to stay on the lead lap as much as possible. And gosh, I think 4 or 5 times I've seen him battle that like that and then rebound for good finishes. So honestly, at this point, it helped the 12, especially in catching the 5 in the first place. But once the 5 finally did kind of get past the 99 and the 99's holding up the 12, I'm like, all right, get out of the way. Now it's time for us to take the stage win. But yeah, that was awesome watching him come all the way back there when he finally did take the lead. Right before the end of that stage, you could just see some of the pit crew guys and Flores just kind of like point forward, like to the lead. Mm-hmm. They know what they have to do. And what this does, though, is this sets up like a monster pit stop for them because it's been a while since they've been in a position to where they have the pressure on having to hold a lead in a race that's so pivotal like this.
Yeah. So, stage one, third place, huge points. Stage two wins the stage, even bigger points, and the point gain has totally changed things now in the field. Some of the guys who didn't get points, and then what ends up happening in third stage. But yeah, pitting for 4 tires here, goes in first, comes out first. It's a 9.60 according to TV, which is, might be a tenth or two slower than one or two other cars, but coming to pit road first and running down pit road at the right speed.
If you want to watch this stop, I was able to film that one in person, so it's on our Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's on TikTok, it's on Instagram. So take a look for those. It'll be out throughout the week, but it's one of the best stops I've seen them do in person since I got to see that from Darlington a year or two ago. So like it, share it, and heap some praise on those guys because they had a hell of a race.
Josh, and everybody just kind of says there's an attaboy on the radio there. Jonathan does come on and say something about saving fuel here during the caution just for the next stop, because the next stage is a longer stage, and if they stop somewhere in the middle, they might be closer to the number there, and they want to make sure they don't have to sit there extra long for gas. We do choose the outside for the restart, and restart lap 172, racing with the 24, and the 24 kind of takes the lead for a lap or two, and then Ryan actually gets it back here on lap 174. Lap 177, he's a half a second up now. He's out in clean air. Lap 178, the 11 car gets to second. So he ends up, getting up there with him. At lap 192, the 5 and the 11 are racing behind him, which kind of is nice because now he can gap them a little bit. At lap 194, the 5 car passes the 11. So now it looks like the 5 car is coming a little bit. And but at lap 195, Ryan is 0.839 ahead of second place. And at lap 198, the 5 brushes the wall trying to get to Ryan, and ends up losing some time back to 1.4 seconds behind Ryan.
I'm getting super nervous at this point because it's becoming clear that they could go and win this race and walk off to the championship race at Phoenix and just do it right now. Not even have to worry about next week. They had an amazing long run car, and all I wanted was this thing to go green. Like, just stay green, let them dominate, and just, kind of prove the doubters wrong and focus forward. But we'll see how that works out the rest of the way. But at this point, I'm just total ball of nerves down there, hoping that they could pull this thing off.
Lap 199, Ryan comes on and says they're pretty well balanced here. He's just trying to take care of it. They're a little tight on the wall. Now, lap 202, the 78 brushed the wall and then came down pit road. And I think he spun it out even going onto pit road, but no caution, which was great.
Yeah, he went backwards. He drove down pit road backwards after that, which that was helpful, I guess.
Lap 205, he's about a second ahead of the 5 car. And what he's doing is taking away the 5's line. He's trying to run the same line so the 5 really can't, get nothing but dirty air. Running the fence all the way around here. At lap 209, they start going through some lap traffic here. And then at lap 211, the green flag cycle starts. And they wait a lap or two, but at lap 214, they're pitting. Now, this is what we talked about. We talked about beforehand. If we get through another green flag cycle, he gains a second or two maybe on the cycle itself, because that'll happen. And then they run another long run to the end without any issues. We may have seen a nice big blowout, the way I really envision him winning some of these races, where he just goes out and just, goes all the way to the end with it. But instead, we have an issue. Now, Ryan.
Drama.
Yeah, we have drama. And it's not even Ryan's doing. That's the funny part, is he ends up.
Well, I don't know. Have you been on X and social media? And
those people.
Apparently the TV broadcast.
Yeah, I'm about to tell those people a story. Because he comes down pit road, and I guess the 5 car was told if he pits to follow him. And I don't care what timing and scoring line everybody on TV is looking at. Ryan has dashboard lights that he's trying to hit, and he tries to hit them by that line, and they usually go 5 miles an hour over what they're allowed to have. So if pit road speed is 45 miles an hour, they try to go no more than 50. Okay. And they do that on that opening. Now they've got it calculated too. They calculate this way ahead of time, but they do run pit road speed pre-race. Okay. And what Mr. Larson says afterward, and he apologizes to some extent because he does say we didn't mean to hit him and I wasn't trying to hit him and I didn't really realize, but he kind of doesn't really back it up with, I was coming in way too hot, which is what it really comes down to. Sure, Ryan had slowed down in front of him, but if you watch the 5 car was never going to get slowed down in time to get to pit road. So everybody who wants to apologize for the guy, I'm glad you're a fan of his. I'm glad you feel he can do no wrong. But he was never going to get slow enough by the time he got to pit road. That's why he hit the barrels on the right-hand side.
That's the only thing I give him credit for, is he could have just plowed to the back of the 12 and potentially would have saved his car, because these cars can take a pretty decent, I mean, they've softened the front clip a little bit, but instead he hooks it to the right and then goes into the barrel. So, I mean, I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. But yeah, the way he went back and forth on the interview, where he says it's his fault, but then he's like, but man, the 12 just slowed down. He didn't say it specifically, but I think maybe TV was trying to measure it out like 50 to 75 feet before the line. All I'm going to say is I think the 12 was doing perfectly fine on pit road entry all day. The fact that they gain positions on every green flag cycle, essentially, and most of the non-green flag cycles as well. There's just, I think, the one stop where they lose spots like very early in the race. So I think he was doing just fine with his pit road entry and speed and everything. And I mean, he's leading the race, a race that could put him into the championship 4 if he wins. The last thing he wants to do is push it, especially considering he's had a couple of very untimely speeding penalties this year, which is not, was not common for Ryan Blaney until 2023. So I was totally fine with him kind of taking it a little bit easy in there. And the 5 should just know not to push it. I mean, but it is what it is. He took himself out of the race in the end.
That's the thing, is like the 5 won the week before, and then he talked all this good game about, I'm just going to win the rest of them. I'll keep the momentum going. Well, you still have to do that within reason. There are still a factor of executing what you're trying to do without making a mistake. And you can't be tentative. You're right. You can't be tentative and worry about making the mistake, but you got to execute. And what the 12 car had done all day is executed, come to pit road on a green flag stop. And the 5 car just decided that he was going to gamble, and he gambled way, way too much. He come down off that apron, came down way too hot. Like I said, he was never going to slow down enough to make pit road speed. He was going to be too fast entering. If Ryan's car was not there, he was going to be too fast entering. The way he slid the brakes and the smoke come off his car, he was too fast entering. So forget this whole thing about, well, Ryan slowed down and he was in the way, or whatever it was that you 5 fans have got going on there. He was never going to make pit road speed. He was going to get a penalty. Now, here's the thing that happens. The caution comes out. Not everybody has pitted yet. The 12 team can take their time on the pit stop, which is kind of interesting because they don't have, they basically have to beat the, to get to the pace car, ahead of the pace car or whatever. So they lined up behind the pace car. So they don't, they're on the lead lap and the caution's happening technically while they're leading. So what ends up happening is, as they cycle this all around, the guys who had not pitted yet are going to pit, and then Ryan is going to assume the lead again, which is super, and then you've got guys who had pitted already, were a lap down, and they have to take a wave round, which, works out for a couple of them. What's bad about it is there was a well, we've seen a picture today.
Yeah, posted that.
Justin Hughes was at the shop, got a decent picture of the back end of the car. There was a hole in the back of the car, not just some damage where it got crushed in. And Ryan was really worried about this. As they're doing the caution laps, he wanted to know, they realized he got hit, and he was kind of like, well, what, is there damage? Is it crushed in? And luckily it did. It buckled and then came back out. Luckily it didn't break anything underneath on the suspension. Luckily it didn't bust the diffuser, so that, so everything was going to be okay. But did it maybe lose a little bit of what it had earlier in the race because of it? It's hard to say. I mean, there's data I'm sure that they're pouring over today, but it may have caused the car to not run quite as well as it did in the previous laps. So they do a red flag to clean up.
Yeah, because of the beach that they had created on pit road at that point. But yeah, there's that pesky red non-weather related red flag at a race that I've attended, and people like to point that out.
It's so funny. Our guy Josh Novak, who runs the Elgin, got a starring role in that because they brought the Elgin out there, and there were guys handling the vacuum basically they have on that thing to get all that sand up. Like I said, all these cars need to pit. Once they go back to yellow here, they go ahead and pit. And now when we line up behind Ryan is the 11, the 24, and now the 4 car has gotten his way up into the top 5. So that's pretty good. They did a great pit stop, got themselves up there. And Jonathan and Ryan, or not Jonathan, Josh and Ryan discuss who's going to be the better pusher. So, as they line up the row, they're hoping they have a certain guy behind them to push them out there a little bit and give them a better restart. Ryan takes the top, the 11 takes the bottom, and the 24 is pushing Ryan, and Kevin's pushing the 11. So we restart lap 221. The 11 actually takes the lead here, and they made a caution for the 1:42:15.6 incident there. Ryan was second when that happened. The 9 and 19 had some contact in the middle of that too. So the top 5 at this point, the 11, the 12, the 20, the 24, and the 4.
So a couple things I want to mention about this restart specifically. One, Ryan started on the outside, and according to the radio broadcast, the outside for the leader had only worked once or twice before the entire race. So it was a little bit of a gamble. When it did work, it was Larson, and he needed the full lap to get the momentum up to then sail off out to the lead. Unfortunately, Ryan did not get a full lap here. So that's one thing I noticed on this restart. Second thing that I noticed on this restart, when you read the top 5 or 6 before, Christopher Bell wasn't one of those cars. He made, I don't want to say dangerous. It's like a very aggressive. He made a very aggressive move 3 wide on this restart to get up to 3rd. And I said, and when he lines up, I think he lines up behind, does he line up behind Ryan on the next restart? I think we'll go over that.
Yes.
When he lines up behind Ryan, it sunk, my stomach sunk, because I said this 21 with the 11 car being on the front row and a teammate, the 20 is not going to be pushing the 12, and the 20 is also going to take them 3 wide. And unfortunately, as we'll go through this, exactly 100% what happens here. And I was devastated because I already saw it playing out before it even happened. There's just no help for the 12 car with those Toyotas up front.
Yep. Restart lap 229 here. And that's exactly right. The 11 on the bottom of the 24 pushing, Ryan on the top of the 20 pushing. And 20 goes low, somehow gets below and around the 24 and passes everyone there. At lap 233, the 24 passes Ryan, and they're racing with the 11 in 3rd, though. And the 20's in 1st, and the 24 gets to 2nd here. And at lap 235 is when the 11 passes Ryan down low, and then something breaks on the 11 car. And NASCAR, it's funny because, people talk about the swearing on the radios, and it happens, and they all do it. Okay. That's another thing. Everybody's like, yeah, there was a lot of Ryan yesterday because Ryan was in the top 2 or 3 and, leading laps and in the middle of some of this action. But this one here was really funny because the 11 did race Ryan really hard in those couple of laps on those restarts. And I haven't listened to his podcast yet, but I'm sure Denny didn't talk about how he was trying to take the air off of him, but that's what they're doing. They all do this where they try, the low guy tries to take the air off of him and everything else. Well, something broke on the 11 car. He ends up in the wall. Ryan does swear a little bit on the radio, and NASCAR picks up on this, and they post everything everywhere with all the bleeps in it and everything else. And it's like bleeps and then little symbols so you can guess how many letters there were, but it's in a moment. That's the thing. Everybody don't get all mad about these guys swearing. It's always in a moment of something happening. I'm sure Denny's not all ticked off all day today about what Ryan said, even in the post race interview. But
he didn't hold back. He didn't hold back in the post.
He didn't hold back a little bit, but he gave it to him in an intelligent and a kind of funny manner, a little snarky. But you mentioned it was kind of a good thing here because good.
I was gonna say, you mentioned the Denny's podcast, and the only thing I could think of reading Ryan's, post-race transcript and what the choice words that he had about the 11 chopping him off and all that stuff is like, if you listen to Denny's podcast, the few times that he's talked about Ryan, it's all been very, he's been, kind of lauding like the way that he drives and, his career. And he says he has lots of nice things to say about the 12 and then the way they race around each other. And I'm like, you're right. I haven't listened to it either. I'm not sure if it's out yet or not, or if it'll be out tomorrow morning, but
probably.
I wonder if that tune will change a little bit because of they raced really hard side by side for several laps here. And honestly, I had messaged, I think in our Discord chat right before that, I was like, Ryan needs to get out to a lead here and not use up his tires. And then here's what happens. They lose the lead and he's battling the 11 back and forth, probably using up a lot of their stuff just for third and fourth at that point. And I'm like, oh man, but yeah, there's a little bit of karma there. Ryan, I don't know. Was there actual contact? Ryan says that he mentioned in his post race that the 11 used him up. And I guess that can mean different things to different people. I don't know if they actually used, maybe Ryan, used up, they didn't actually hit each other, but he had to lift to avoid it or what.
Yeah,
but that was part of his post race.
Yeah. What he was talking about was getting cut off and it was saying, if you're going to commit to it. And a lot of times he didn't commit to it. So Ryan was maybe trying to give him the lane and yet he didn't take it. And then he basically raced him hard and like I said, end up being side by side because I think what Denny was hoping would happen is Ryan would make a mistake and fall way back. But
now you're talking about the good thing now. I'm assuming it's points related with the 11 car falling out of the race.
Yeah, that's one thing that's about to happen here. Jonathan gets on the radio and says, I've got a plan. So there's something already in foot about what he's going to do with handling. Josh gets on there, and this was kind of a cool thing that has ended up on NASCAR site. He says, we're going to pit, we're going to get the lead, and we're going to win this SOB, he says. And I got all fired up, because Josh is not usually, he's not really there to do the pep talk. He's there to give a lot of facts out and information, but he was all fired up and he was getting his driver all fired up. And, the 11 and the 19 end up out right here. The 11 broke whatever he broke. The 19 comes to pit road and he's smoking or something, and they go under the hood and something bad happened to the 19. So now what didn't happen in Vegas. In Vegas, we had the top 8 guys finish somewhere between 1 and 11. Well, this week we're not going to have that. And,
and the 17 was just slow.
I haven't even mentioned the 17. He was just, and which is really weird because the 6 car, his team car, was up there most of the day. But here we go. We're pitting. We're coming in third and we're coming out second with a 9.4 stop.
They're on it all day. We've already said it multiple times, but there's only one stop that they had a little bit of a hiccup on all day long. Every single cycle, they gained positions.
They beat the best team on pit road here. The 20 car, as the team took the pit crew from the 54 because they've been statistically the best crew on pit road all season. They did a 10-4 stop. Still not horrible, but 1 second ends up being 2 positions for the 20 car. Chus going here, the 24 taking the bottom, Ryan taking the top here. The 4 is pushing the 24. The 20 once again is pushing the Ryan, and the 22 is behind the 20. So I kind of thought, well, that's kind of promising because if they end up close enough and lined up, the 22 is going to literally push the 20 into the 12. Restarting lap 242 here. The 24 gets in front. Ryan is in second at this point. But at lap 243, the 20 passes back to third here. At lap 250, the 24 and the 20 are battling. So, at this point, Hassler comes on. And I don't know if he's the only thing I don't know about communication sometimes it's just directly to Josh and Josh relays it. Sometimes it's something that both Josh and Ryan can hear, depending on how they do this. So, but Jonathan reminds everybody that they're 12 points above the cut line now, as long as things finish where they're at. And Ryan, it must have went right to it, because Ryan says 10-4, I'm trying, which is kind of funny because Ryan's still trying to win, and they're trying to win, yes. But what Jonathan's trying to say is, don't risk the car and the finish, if we can, stay where we're at. Lap 252, the 20 takes the lead. At lap 259, Ryan does pass the 24 and get to second here. And Josh tells him, hey, you can do it. And in the laps that follow here, he does close the gap a little bit. It gets to within a second, but maybe the 20 car might have been backing off a little bit just to make sure that he didn't wreck. But the 20 wins. Ryan does finish second here and gains, like I said, gains all these points. And there was a position tour change in there where it ends up being a 10-point lead to the cut line now. And overall, just a fabulous day. I mean, the only thing that was missing is the W, and we can go ahead and get that this week coming up. But, to go from 17 below the cut line to 10 above in 1 week and have much more control of your destiny, it's just a beautiful, beautiful weekend down in South Florida.
So we're going to probably extensively talk about this point situation, but I just want to mention, and Steve mentioned this to me after the race, that just last week I was saying at 17 below that I thought they were in must-win situation, and Steve said, yeah, if everybody has a perfect race again, but maybe that won't happen. Well, here we are. The 11 and the 19 have devastating races. The 17 just was slow. Mm-hmm. The only car that performed was the 45, and he's 10 below, and Ryan's 10 above. The 24, as all year long, again, I will say, I mean, obviously I want the 12 to win championship. The 24 is still absolutely championship favorite. They just are in the top 5 every single week. So somehow, as you said, 27 point swing from post DQ point standing, 56, was it, did you say 56, 66? Something point swing if pre-DQ, or pre-DQ being rescinded. So I never thought there was a chance he would go into Martinsville above the cut line. I thought maybe he could make up some points and be, 5 below or something like that, still where he might need to win. Here's where I need my pep talk, Steve, is that plus 10 is amazing. It's awesome. But if Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, or Chris Buescher show up to Martinsville and win the race, unless William Byron has the worst race of his season, which again, we saw that could happen. That happened with the 11 and the 19. Ryan's done. He's not going to make it, and it could be totally out of his control. He could finish second and still not make it to the championship 4. So I need that pep talk. I need you to reassure me that maybe one of those 4 guys below the cut line is not going to win. And I think you wanted to throw out a crazy theory on a way that William Byron could also miss it. Yeah. I'm sure it's very well researched, but I did want to point out some statistics before we talk about whether these guys could just have bad races. And I just want to look at some average Martinsville finishes for these guys. And this is going to be career average. So Chris Buescher enters in the 8th position, the furthest back in points at minus 43 points. So he's in a basically absolute must-win situation. 19th average finish, 1 top 10. Denny Hamlin is in the 7th position in points. He has a 10th place average finish, one of his absolute best tracks, 5 wins at Martinsville. Martin Truex Jr. is in the 6th position in points, 17 points back, just like Ryan was last week. He has a 16th place average finish at Martinsville, but quite honestly, I bet if you look at a lot of Martin Truex Jr.'s tracks, it's like that because he can be kind of a feast or famine driver. 3 wins, though, at that track. And Tyler Reddick, he doesn't have a very long Cup career so far, but it's not a great average finish in Martinsville. 20th, one top 10 as well. Truex finished third, Hamlin fourth, Reddick 22nd, and Buescher 14th in the spring race at Martinsville. So that's kind of where we are, at least, their total careers, where they finished in the last race there. Specifically, I know at some point we could maybe take a look at average finishes in the next gen car, which I believe Ryan Blaney himself actually has one of the top average finishes at Martinsville in the next gen car. So everybody, at least two of those four drivers below the cut line, make me extremely nervous about them coming in and just winning this race, and William Byron having a top 5 day, and then that's it. That's the frustrating part. But I also I'm almost like trying to pet myself up. That's also just, this is the round of 8. This is serious.
Yeah.
This isn't like just making the playoffs. This is making the championship race. So it shouldn't be easy, right?
No. And the scenario I'm sure they're looking at is just win this weekend, right? 2 weeks ago, that's what we were thinking. We got to win one of the next two. Well, now we just got to win one of the next one. And reality is that's what they're going to shoot for, is to try to get up near the front and win the race and be better than the other cars, better than the other drivers. But we want to talk about funny, funky scenarios, which I do. I've got, we gained 27 points on 2 guys. Okay. So 2 guys had to have the bad race, and they did. Now we only need to do it on 1 guy, and we don't need to go 27 points. We only need to go 20 points. And I think 20 exactly would do it, because if they end up with a tie, it's the highest finish in the round, and Ryan finished second. So first stage, finish second or third in the stage, and maybe William finishes 8th or 9th. Second stage, same thing. Ryan finishes third and William finishes 8th or 9th. Now all of a sudden you've closed the gap from 20 to about 8. And then you just got to finish 8 or 9 spots above him. And that's the funny part, is that I'm not saying he wrecks out. I'm not saying that the 24 goes bye-bye. I'm saying the 24 has a bad pit stop, speeds down pit road one time, and then loses 15 spots. And all of a sudden Ryan's racing around 5th or 6th, and Williams back in 20th and can't get there by the end of the race. And then there's no Hail Melon that's going to happen this year, because it's not allowed. So there's a whole scenario there where he just points his way in totally, which, like I said, don't want to depend on that. Let's just go ahead and win a race. Let's get a W so that everybody else there is impressed, just like we've been impressed these last couple months. So, but there are scenarios, the thing about it is, now you're in a position where you put the pressure on everybody else. Okay. You're not feeling the pressure because why? You're up above everybody, right? You've gotten a cushion now. You have a points thing now. If guys, you get to the end of the first stage and you're up in the top 5, now guys behind you really got to make a play for the front. Now they got to gamble. Now they do strange things with strategy. Now they got to get off sequence. Okay. Sometimes those things work out. Sometimes they fail miserably. But the thing is you put the pressure on them. You're in the position. You've gotten yourself to where you need to be. You make them have to make a dangerous move, a dangerous call, and then watch them implode. Really, it's very, very rare. I mean, last year Bell pulled it off 2 different times. So, it has happened, but right now this car and the way it races, the only thing I find interesting about all the statistics you gave is three races in this next gen car on this track. And this track is way different than any other half mile because there's really no banking to it. But this weekend coming up, it's going to be like 85 degrees out there on Sunday. So we might see some different things with tire wear, and the cars might actually be slipping and slide a little bit. And we know Ryan likes that. He loves to race like that, where it's a little loose, So I really can't wait to see what they can do between practice qualifying and the race. It's going to be a great weekend to go down there.
So I read off a lot of those career statistics from Martinsville, and you brought up a good point about just the next gen car there specifically. So let's take a look at the average finishes for the drivers in the last 3 races at Martinsville in the next gen car. Chris Buescher is the lowest on the list at average finish of about 17.6. Then you have Truex at 15th, You have Hamlin with an average finish of 12.3. You have Byron, average finish of 10.3. You have, I think Tyler Reddick doesn't even make the list because his career average is like 20th there, and most of the races have actually been in the next gen car. But Ryan Blaney, though, he's just below teammate Joey Logano, who's out of the playoff picture, but Logano leads the way at an average finish of 3.3, which is insane. And Ryan Blaney, average finish of 4.6 at Martinsville in the next gen car. So if I need something to pump myself back up, it's that specific stat. And then Ryan's overall stats at Martinsville. I think I say this every time. Pretty sure this is his best track statistically over his career. No wins there yet, though. Average start of 9.3, so almost always starts in the top 10. Average finish of 9.5, which again is kind of crazy. 15 starts, no wins, 7 top 5s, 9 top 10s. His last several finishes here, I'm going to go all the way back to 2019 because he's basically been on a run since then. 4th, 5th, 2nd, 11th. So those weren't awesome, but they're pretty decent. 4th, 3rd, and 7th. So he finished 7th in this race in the spring. He's led a total of 377 laps there. The majority of those coming in a race in 2021 and a race in 2018. So it's been a while since he's kind of dominated a race there specifically. I believe that race in 2021, they may have had a little bit of a pit miscue that took him out. But on the plus side, we talk about execution. In this round, since Talladega and in this round, the 12 team has peaked at the right time. They've executed every race pretty much perfectly. The pit crew gained spots all day long at Homestead, minus just maybe one little tricky stop there along the way. Really, really going to be important that they are all on their game. They have to have almost a perfect race. We talked about putting the pressure on everybody else, and yeah, that's great. They're putting the pressure on everybody else, but that's assuming that they execute at 95 to 100% and finish, like you said, top 5 in every stage, top 5 in the race, and hope that they get a little bit of help from somebody totally out. Brad Keselowski. Brad has been pretty good at Martinsville in the past. He's still looking for his first win with RFK. Brad, go ahead and go win this race and let Ryan have a really solid day and claim that 4th position in the championship for. I don't care. I just don't want anybody below the cutoff line winning this race.
Watch the ultimate wingman pull it off.
Yeah, Penske won too. I'd be good for Penske 1-2 either way.
You know the 22 is really good there, right? So if the qualifying goes well and they're both in the top whatever in qualifying, there's one guy I wouldn't mind having win the race while we finish 2nd or 3rd. That'd be fine. I'd be good with that. But that's the thing is like, last year in the playoffs there were more guys outside of a playoff winning races, and this year. It hasn't happened as often, but somebody like Brad or somebody like what Harvick was able to do at the end of the race can happen, and we could see a guy from totally outside the 8 win this race, and that would be totally crazy. Who's really good at Martinsville, and he was good in the other series, is Bubba Wallace. Yeah, let's say Bubba gets up near the front and Tyler's not near the front. They're not going to wait for the 45 to hurry up and catch up. You know what I mean? So if Bubba can get his hands on a clock, but
a couple others, Kyle Larson won the race last year. Ross Chastain, Hale Mellon, whatever, but he still runs pretty well there. So
and
those are guys that won't impact things.
And Bell won it last year.
Yep.
So there's nothing to say Bell couldn't go back to back too. So, Josh has.
This is if the 12 can't win. Obviously, Ryan's so good there. We would rather him go out and walk the dog. So we're just putting up scenarios here where who would it be good for to win if it's not the 12?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, Josh Williams has a clock from Zane from 2 years ago in the Truck Series, and I think Josh needs a sister clock for it. And I think
one for the upstairs.
That's right, one for the upstairs, exactly. So. Ryan can go ahead and do that, help Josh out a little bit and get one of his own. Ryan said when he was on our podcast, he doesn't really keep a lot of trophies. He only has a couple, but I'm sure a clock is one he would definitely keep in his house.
So we've talked a ton about Martinsville, the scenarios, the points. Why don't we tell you how you can watch this race this weekend? So I'll give you the NASCAR on TV report for Martinsville Speedway. Kicks off Saturday, October 28th when it comes to Cup Series action on track, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying at Martinsville Speedway on the USA Network. Last week, practice and qualifying was only available on the app, so if you didn't see it on cable, that's why. But this week it does say it's going to be on USA. And then 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, the NASCAR Xfinity Series Dead on Tools 250 at Martinsville, also on USA. And then Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the NASCAR Cup Series Xfinity 500. Remember, this is a 500-mile race or 500-lap race. Not 500-mile, a 500-lap race compared to the 400-lap race in the spring. So this one is not a little bit longer, 100 laps longer. So Xfinity 500 at Martinsville, that's going to switch over to the NBC network. Couple other things to mention. We brought up the Blaney Bunch fan club in the past on this podcast and how it supports the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. They're going to have a get together at Martinsville. So if you're a Blaney fan and you're a member of the Blaney Bunch, check your email, the email account that you use for that, just in case maybe you use one you don't check very often. There's some information in there on a meetup that's going to happen, one on Saturday right before the Xfinity Series race, and then one on Sunday before the Cup Series race as well. So check those emails if you're a member of the Blaney Bunch. Steve and Kate and myself and my wife Tara are planning on being there as well. So if you want to say hello, I think we're going to have some stickers and some things to pass out to folks too. If you want to come say hello to us, I think we're going to try to be at least one of us representing it, both of those meetups over the weekend.
Yeah, Saturday is going to be Ryan's an actual appearance, correct?
Yeah, I think it's scheduled to be 2:45 p.m. at the NASCAR Experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one, and then on Sunday, I don't remember the time for that. That one's also for Blaney Bunch folks at the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation tent. So we always bring that up as well. Sounds like the tent's going to be at Martinsville. All kinds of really cool merchandise that's Ryan Blaney Family Foundation themed and Ryan Blaney themed and Blaney Racing themed as well. Some unique gifts and stuff. I mean, from a cross section from stuff that, Steve and I would like, stuff that our wives would like. So there's something for everything at that booth, and it supports a great cause. And you can go over there, talk to Patty and everybody else that's there. Sounds like Leah maybe might be there over the weekend as well, representing. So looking forward to that. And all of that's happening at Martinsville.
Yeah. So check your email, Facebook page. They use the Facebook page. If you're a member of the fan club, you'll have a message on there. I think something about the thing on Saturday is if you get a hold of them and let them know you're going to be there, they'll reserve a spot for you, like a preferred spot to be there for the Q&A. So make sure you get a hold of Leah through the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. She'll make sure she takes care of you if you're a member of the Blaney Bunch. So yeah, good weekend to get together. I think Sunday morning, I think they were saying like 10 a.m. or something like that at the tent, and hope to see everybody there for that.
Yeah, and like we said, it seems like great weather's going to be on tap, unseasonably warm. We're coming up from Florida, and we're hoping we were going to get a little bit of break from the warm weather, but it sounds like they're saying near record temperatures for this time of year in Martinsville, Virginia. So I think the record's 82. They're calling for 81 so far on Saturday and Sunday. So that's unfortunate, but the rain is not in the forecast right now, but we are coming up there, so we'll see. So we talked everything about Martinsville. We skipped fantasy last week because the disqualification had thrown everything for a loop, and the NASCAR Fantasy Live stuff had not updated. So we're going to go through our Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League leaderboards here and our results from Homestead-Miami Speedway. My starting lineup, Steve, I'll call it a blunder, but it's because I was just so caught up in what was happening and Ryan winning stage 2 that I did not change my lineup, and I left Ryan in the garage, and Ryan ended up earning the most points all day long. And I'm fairly certain if I had made a swap here, I would have won the weekend. And it's very unfortunate for me because instead I finished 23rd. So my starting lineup, Tyler Reddick got me 42 points. Kyle Larson got me 21. William Byron got me 49. Here's my blunder. Left Truex in, though this didn't happen until stage 3, but I should have probably swapped them because Truex wasn't running necessarily outstanding. So Truex only got me 19 points with his engine expiration. Christopher Bell got me 42. Left Ryan Blaney in the garage at 53 points. And this was a weekend where the winner didn't necessarily have a ton of points, as far as some weeks have gone here. So unfortunate. I ended up finishing 23rd. Let's take a look at my featured matchups. I picked Larson over Byron. That was wrong. I picked Hamlin over Truex. That was wrong. I picked Reddick over Bell. That was wrong. I picked Blaney over Busher. That was right. So I went 1 of 4 on the featured matchup. So just a few more things here, but I mean, it's difficult. You've run into this position when you're at the track watching live. Wi-Fi was spotty, cell reception spotty, in and out. I could get some messages out to you, but I'll blame it on that a little bit. But I didn't make that stage 2 change because I was just so fixated on Ryan chasing down the 5 car and winning the stage. So what did your lineup look like, and where you ended up in the leaderboard?
Yeah, I had Truex. I did have Ryan. I had my last usage for him for the playoffs, so I used him up there. Keselowski at one point was looking really good. Larson at one point was looking really good. Then Byron. So I had the number 1 and number 2 guys in points on the day. Bubba Wallace in the garage. I had swapped him out at one point because he had faded way back and Keselowski had moved up. So there's a little bit of a swing there that if I had had that different, it would have been about 7 or 8 more points. And I split the matchups too. I had Larson. I had Truex over Hamlin, which I win by 1 spot, 29th to 30th, I did have Tyler Reddick thinking he was going to have a better day than Bell. And I did have Ryan over Busher. That was kind of a given for me, but I can't wait to see what this week's matchups are and how they do them, with the playoff guys.
So again, I finished in the 23rd position, a 4-way tie for 23rd. You finished all alone in the 20th position with 186 points earned. Let's take a look at the top 10 in points earned at Homestead for the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. And this is kind of crazy. I don't think I've seen this before. So we have Racing Girl 12 in the 10th position with 203 points earned. And then listen to this. We have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie for the 5th position. So we jump from 5th, from 10th to 5th because of everybody tying here. Christian Dana, Cheesehead Fan, P-Shoot Bill, The Nutty Gamer, and Blaney's Daisy all tied for 5th with 204 points earned. We have a tie for 3rd between Pocono Lady and U.S. Calvin, 214 points earned. 2nd, Doug QC, 217 points. And leading the way with the win at Homestead-Miami Speedway in the 1st position, Bulldog 0277, 235 points earned. So that's kind of crazy. Seems like a lot of people were starting a lot of the same drivers and ended up finishing pretty well and getting a top 5. So let's take a look at the playoff standings in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League, and I'm trying to see. Wow. So you were in the top 10 at one point along the way here in the playoffs, but you've fallen dramatically. And that's okay. You actually fell behind our friend Justin Hughes, Joe Bro, 1221 and 30th with 1,506 points. And you, Mez 12, is in 31st, 1,503. So 31st position for the Mez team. Let's take a look at the top 10, which will actually start with 9th because there's a tie between JD Racing and Zero Schlitz Given in the 9th position, 1,599 points earned. And 8th, climbing his way back up as the season goes along here, Clyde's Chicken Pit Racing, 8th position, 1,604. Tie for 6th between Moose Hunter 1960 and Blaring Idiots at 1,619 points. My team, Team Blaney host Adam, is in the 5th position all alone, 1,621 points. 4th is Blaney's Daisy, 1,625. 3rd is my wife, Rogers T, 1,655. And a tie for 1st in the playoff standings. Again, that's amazing. But you win some praise, but the points don't matter. You win nothing. The Nutty Gamer and Fike 21 tied for 1st in the playoff standings, 1,664 points. Now, the standings that do mean something, we're going to look at the overall standings in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. And I have made some gains here over the last several weeks to where I am in the 20s now, Steve. It is the deep 20s, but I am there. 29th position, Team Blaney host Adam, 6,230 points. Team Mez here, Mez 12, has fallen in the overall standings now as well. You were in the top 10, then the top 15 for much of the year. Now you're in 20th, 6,354 points. So we only got 8 points, 8 positions separating us, Steve. 2 races to go. I'm not sure If it's even possible, no, I'd have to gain 200 plus points on you. So I'm not going to get past you, but I'd like to close that gap before we get to the end of the season here. Let's take a look at the top 10 points earned overall. Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. In 10th, Christian Dana, 6,486. In 9th is JD Racing, 6,500. In 8th, Eric D15, 6,502. 7th is Alyssa C, 6,520. 6th is Penske Fan 24, 6,593. Fike 21 is in 5th, 6,595. Man, this is super tight. 4th is Go Larson, 6,596. 3rd, Blaring Idiot, 6,599. So from 3rd all the way 3rd to 6th is just a handful of points separating those folks. So if you want to get into the top 5 there and you are in that position, you have a really good shot just by picking a couple things better than the folks around you. Top 3, Blaring Idiots in 3rd, 6,599. This is where it's for all the marbles. 2nd position, Factory of Sadness 6, led much of the year, has been passed in the last few weeks. 2nd position, 6,649. Blaney's Daisy holds it on the first spot, 6,762 points. So that is the update you've been waiting for. Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. I think I could have had a much better week if I would have just started Ryan Blaney. It probably could have moved me up a little bit higher in the playoff standings at least. I say those don't matter. Those matter to me because that's usually the only part where I have a shot at finishing in the top 10 every year. Overall, it's out. I'm just trying to close that gap on you. I think we've already talked about the people you're going to want to look at for fantasy this week. If you still have starts for Ryan Blaney, absolutely start him. If you have starts for Hamlin, start him. If you have starts for Truex, start him. Reddick, I'm not so sure. Byron, if you have a start for him, I'd start him. If you have Larson, if you have a start for him, I would start him. I mean, any of those guys that are in the 8, Christopher Bell wins that race last year in a walk-off to get to the championship 4. If you have a start for him, start him. So unless you're holding on to that last spot for Phoenix, those are all the guys that I'm looking at. All 8 guys. I mean, Chris Buescher has been good on some short tracks. I think he won Richmond, but that's a little bit different. He hasn't run well at Martinsville in the next gen car. So we'll see what kind of speed that RFK can bring. I mean, obviously I'm hoping they bring about the same speed they brought to Homestead because we don't want to deal with that. But fantasy wise, you're going to have to make those decisions with statistics and maybe not with your heart and who you want to win. But that's totally up to you. So
I'm just, you can't go beyond the top 8 or the playoff 8 because you just don't know. Practice and qualifying is always the kind of determining factor for that. Because if somebody pops up in there, ends up 2nd or 3rd or something to start the race, then you've got somebody you might want to hang on to just because they've got the speed to be where they need to be. Like I said, the biggest difference is going to be the weather. This is going to be, I think, the first time since they put the next gen car at Martinsville that it's been this hot. And it'll be interesting to see. And then there's a different tire compound going to be there. So we're going to see a couple different things that may make the racing better than it's been. And like I said, a little bit slipperier, a little bit more sliding going on out there would be awesome because I know that a guy like Ryan likes that kind of racing. He's better without the back end underneath him than a lot of other guys. So, yeah, I can't wait. I just can't wait. It's what we're recording this Monday. Is it Friday yet?
Yep, hitting the road on Friday. Definitely looking forward to the weekend and our first trip to Martinsville Speedway for myself and Tara. I know you've been there a few times, so we're definitely Saturday probably going to get our first taste of the hot dogs. Really looking forward to what we can see on Sunday, and it's another bucket list track to check off. I think we've checked off 3 or 4 of those this year, which has been pretty exciting for us. It's our last in-person race of the year. I think it makes, I'm not bragging, it's just we are blessed to have the opportunity to travel via car. We're not flying anywhere, so I think this is our 10th Cup race of the year. So calling it a day or calling it a year after that, and we'll see what goes on for 2024. But like you said, really looking forward to the weekend, trying my best not to just be a nervous wreck and enjoy the weekend, enjoy the experience, let them control what they can control. Again, it's not life or death, but I mean, this is big time auto racing. It is a professional sport. We are, obviously, since we're 2 guys that host a podcast about Ryan Blaney and the 12 team, we're mega fans. So it is more than just a sport to us. But got to remember there's people involved. Everybody's trying their best. They want to be champions. They want to have that shot. They're peaking at the right time. And I think this is an opportunity that they can grasp at one of their best tracks on the circuit, finally get over that hump and end up in victory lane and give Steve and Kate for like the millionth time a victory to celebrate in person. And hopefully I can knock off my second in person Ryan Blaney win, since I was so close to that this past week at Homestead.
Yeah. Yeah, you have some superstitions about this stuff, but it doesn't matter. They're going to do what they're going to do, and we get to witness it. That's great. We were together for one a couple years ago. So
yeah,
let's see if we can do that again. That'd be great. Sit next to you guys and taking pictures of each other and things going on in victory lane. That'd be a way to end the day. So let's see what the 12th team can line up on Saturday and do, and then go into Sunday. And can't wait to come back next week and talk about, hopefully the fruits of the labor, and what become of it.
Thank you, everyone, once again for tuning into this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. If you'd like to learn more about myself or co-host Steve, just listen to our very first episode from a couple of years ago that explores our Blaney racing fandom. You can interact with us on Facebook and Twitter, X at Team Blaney, and on Instagram and TikTok at team.blaney. Last couple of weeks, we've been hitting social media really hard just because we've been at races and taking videos and sharing lots of stuff. So please interact with us. Find us on social media. That's a great place to get to know us and for us to get to know you. And finally, we'd like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Established in 2018, this organization supports causes like the Alzheimer's Association and UPMC Sports Medicine through fundraisers, events, and membership in the Blaney Bunch fan club. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, Instagram, all their active social media channels. And if you're a member of the Blaney Bunch, we'll see you this weekend at Martinsville. So for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time right here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Brussels. Check out the TikTok. Let's go get the W, boys.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.